Hi guys, welcome back to Math 100. Today we are doing section 14.2, and the plan is to just break this into three segments. The first segment, we're going to cover measures of central tendency. That's this first portion of your notes. The next, we're going to cover measures of dispersion in the second portion. And then last thing we're going to do is quartiles and box plots. So first of all, measures of central tendency. What are they? And there's three of them: the mean, the median, and the mode. And just like the word sounds, just like the phrase sounds like, or what it kind of alludes to, we're looking at how things tend towards the center or the middle of a data set. So you got a bunch of data numbers or whatever, right? And you want to know, okay, what's the center of it? What's in the middle? The one that you're probably familiar with is the mean, which is just another word for the average. And right here is a mathy way of writing it. Let me just zoom in here. We write X with a bar over it. That's just kind of a accepted symbol for the average. And this sigma, I think you guys remember seeing this a long time ago. I'm not sure, but this big sigma, this big looks like a kind of capital E. It's called sigma, and it's a Greek letter. It just means to add. So what this symbol is saying is add all the data values, the x's, and then in the end, divide by n. N is the number of things that you have. So add them all up, divide by how many you have. And that's what we're used to for finding the average, right? It's just a math language way of saying that. The next measurement of central tendency is the median. And all the median is, you're probably familiar with this. It's just a number that's in the middle when a list is arranged in order. So you got to make sure that your numbers are in numerical order first. And then the middle number is called the median. It's also called quartile 2 or Q2. And if there are two, then you take the average of the two. When would you have two? Well, if you have an even number of things, like if you have 10 numbers, then there's no center number. You'd have like the fifth and sixth number being closest to the center. So you just average those two. Okay, last measurement of central tendency is the mode, and that's the number that occurs most often. If no value occurs more than once, then there's no mode. And there can also be more than one mode. So if more than one number appears most frequently. And that's it. That's the summary of the measurements of central tendency. That's all we're doing in this first portion. Let's try the questions out. As usual, try the questions before I tell you the answer. What I'm going to do is for this first one, we're going to kind of do it by hand just to kind of see how these things play out. And then after that, I'm going to show you the cheat way to do it, okay? Or a couple cheat ways. Okay, so first for number one, we're going to find the mean. Mean means add them up together, divide by how many you've got, right? So let's do that in the Desmos calculator here. So 17 plus 18 plus 19 plus 20 plus 21. That's 95. And then divide that whole thing by how many? There's 5 of them. So divide by 5, the mean would be 19. Write that here. E equals 19. Okay, median. Fortunately, these numbers are already in order. So look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means there is a center number that would be 19. If you look at 19, it's got 2 on the left, 2 on the right, 2 numbers to the left, 2 numbers to the right. And so it's right in the middle, which makes it the median. That was easy. And then as for mode, there is no mode because none of the numbers appear more than once. So we say no mode. That was it. Excuse me. No, sorry guys, there's something in my throat. So one thing I share with you guys in our Laulima page is this thing called the Google Sheets stats. And in the Google Sheets stats, if you look at the first page, there's something called summary stats. And in summary stats, if you enter the values here, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Actually, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, before you do that, the file I share with you is my personal copy, and I don't want anyone tampering with that one. So if you want to make your own edits, what you do is just click on File and then make a copy. And then that's going to create your own copy of the Google Sheet stats. And then you can make your edits and you can change things around, or you can put in your numbers. Okay. So here, in yellow column right here, instructions say to input a list of numbers in the column A. Here's column A. I put my numbers in. And look what pops out. The mean pops out right there. Median pops out right there. If I look to the right, there's no mode. So not available because there is none. So right there does it all for you automatically. And from now on, that's probably the easiest way I recommend. Desmos can do some of that. If you type in mean, and then parentheses, you can type in the numbers that you want to input, and it will give you the mean. That's pretty useful. But as far as I know, there's nothing that does the median or the mode. So for those, I recommend, if you're not going to do it by hand, then to use the Google Sheets stats that I shared with you. And now for the rest of them, I'm gonna actually just cheat for 20. I'm sorry, for number 2, number 3, number 4. I'm just gonna go ahead and cheat. Just use this thing right here. 70, 81, 95, 79, and 85. Okay, and if I do that, you see my mean, my median, and there's no mode again because nothing appears more than once. Yeah. So there it is. Now for number 3, same thing. Notice that 0 is one of your numbers. So if I was to do this calculation by hand, I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 numbers. And then the center one would be halfway between 2 and 3. That makes it 2.5. But let's just check by plugging it in. 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a 16 and a 21. All right, so the mean is 6. Median is 2.5, like we said it would be. And as for mode, there is one this time. The mode is 1 because 1 appears more than anything else. Okay, number 4. Sorry, guys. I know I started writing this to begin with, but I'm not doing it anymore. So let's just be consistent. Number 4, same thing. Yeah, and like once you get the hang of this thing, it's super easy, right? Scientific calculators can also typically do this kind of calculation, but it's just more troublesome to figure out what to type to get everything to pop out the way it does. So 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. These, by the way, are the squared numbers, right? 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, 6 squared. Here the mean is 15.17 to the nearest 2 decimal places. I don't know if I remember to tell you to round to the nearest 2 decimal places, but 15.17 would be the nearest 2. Median is 12.5. And there's no mode again. Okay, number 5. Number 5 is a little bit different. So here we have a bunch of scores and we have frequencies this time. So what does that mean? That means actually your n here would be the sum of all these. That's the total number of things in the data set. So another way to look at this is to think of it as being like a list of numbers, but you've got 190 and then you've got 80 6 times. Right, like that. So if I wanted to do that in my my Google Sheet, I could just do that by hand and just input 90 once, 86 times. And then 70, I have 10 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then 60, I have 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 53 times and 41 times. And so if you plug all that in, then you're going to get your mean. It's 68. Your median is 70. And your mode is also 70. 70 is the thing that appears most, right? So that's one way to do it. When you're doing the mean calculation, you could do the same kind of similar thing in Desmos, but it's kind of troublesome. There's also an easier way to find at least the mean. The median, I think actually you're still stuck with the finding the median on your own. But the hardest part, I think, is the mean anyway. And later on in the second part of this chapter section, we're going to talk about the standard deviation. But there's something called the weighted mean, and I have this. If you look at my Google Sheet stats I shared with you, the second tab down here in the bottom is the weighted mean. That's when you each value has a weight or frequency. So you could use this as well to calculate the mean. You type in your value and how many times it occurs. Value and how many times it occurs. Value, number of times it occurs, and so forth and so forth. So forth and so forth. It's not an expression, is it? Okay, here you go. And then see you at the weighted mean at 68. Oh, that matches our mean, right? And what was actually, that's the only thing, yeah. So we get the same mean with a slightly easier input here. But the median and mode, you still have to calculate on your own. Median though it's actually easy to see if you just look at this thing. If I count how many things I have, 1 plus 6 plus 10 is 17, plus 3 more is 20, 25. So I have 25 things, which makes the, what is it, the 13th thing the center? 13 would have 12 things on the left, 12 things on the right. That's a total of 24 plus the 13th thing itself. Yeah, so 13 would be the center value. If I look, what's 13th number? Where's that going to land? Well, I've got 10 70s. That's going to be right here. Yeah. It's going to be right here in the 70s. Here, let me write it out so you can see what I'm talking about. So if I was to write this out, I've got 90, I've got 80, 6 times. And then I've got a bunch of 70s, right? Here I'm looking from the large end, but it doesn't actually matter which side you look at it from. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So here's the center value right there. Yeah, I could write out the rest if I wanted to, but you get the idea, right? I think. Maybe you don't get the idea actually. So maybe I should do it. So 60, 60, 60, 60, 50, 50, 50, and 40. But now for sure you can see that. The center number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So here's the center number right there. That makes it the median. And median there's therefore 70. Mode is also 70 because it appears most often. And then we just went over how to calculate the mean. And there you go, guys. Those are the measurements of central tendency, how things tend toward the center. So these are different ways to look at what's in the middle of your data set. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video where we'll talk about the standard deviation and variance and the range.